Hello everyone, welcome to the Morbid Monologue. Today we're talking about a monstrous murder. Or is it more of a haunting history? I'll let you guys decide. In any case, today's topic was a request by viewer C. Boyd. That's right, we're talking about Saint Olga of Kiev. I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of Saint Olga before a couple weeks ago when she was requested, but I'm glad I now know her story, so it's time to share it with you. Now, there are a lot of words and names in this that I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce, so if I get anything wrong, I'm sorry, I'm trying my best. Let's start with some background. There isn't a lot of information on Olga's life before she was married, other than that she was born in Pskov, somewhere around 890 to 925. Sometime around the age of 14 or 15, she married Prince Igor of Kiev, and they had a son together named Sviatoslav. Kiev is currently the capital of Ukraine, however back then it was the capital of an area called Kievan Rus. Prior to Prince Igor's succession, his father Prince Rurik collected tributes from the surrounding tribes within Kievan Rus. Tributes were sort of like a tax that people would pay to a ruler. In this case, the payments were in the form of furs and grains. Sometimes these would grant protection to the people paying or would show their submission to whoever was in charge. Once Igor gained power, some people stopped paying their tributes. After several years of not paying tribute to Kiev, Igor decides to pay a visit to the Drevlians, directly west of Kiev, and demand payment. It's said that Prince Igor either got greedy and demanded too much, or that the Drevlians took offense that Prince Igor was demanding tribute in the first place. Either way, things didn't end well for Prince Igor, because the Drevlians decided to kill him. And not in a quick and painless manner. Instead, what they did was bend 2 trees to the ground, tie each of his legs to a tree, then they released the trees, allowing the force to tear Igor's body apart. At this time, Igor and Olga's son would typically be the one to take over as ruler. However, Sviatoslav was only 3 years old, so Olga became regent to temporarily rule until her son was of age. And rather than leave Olga to mourn the loss of her husband, the Drevlians did something inadvisable. See, now that Igor was out of the picture, they thought it would be great if their prince married Olga. Not only would they no longer have to pay tribute, but they would also rule the Kievan Rus. So Prince Mal of the Drevlians sent 20 of his best men to persuade Olga to marry him. When the men arrived and made Prince Mal's proposal to Olga, she greeted them warmly and agreed to the marriage. She then requested they sleep in their boats that night, and the following day would be filled with celebration in their honor. However, while the men slept that night, Olga had a very large ditch dug. When the men awoke the next morning, Olga had them carried into town in their boats, and then dropped the boats into the ditch and proceeded to bury them alive. So, Olga got her revenge and forgave the Drevlians. Case closed, right? Well, no, she wasn't quite done yet. After burying the 20 men alive, she sent word to Prince Mal, agreeing to marry him if he sent more men to Kiev to escort her to him. Obviously unaware that the previous men he had sent had been murdered, he agreed and sent more to escort Olga. Once they arrived, she again greeted them warmly and treated them as noble guests, even insisting they make use of the bathhouses in town to clean themselves. However, upon entering these bathhouses, the men were locked inside and the buildings set ablaze. Still not yet satisfied, Olga devised another plan for her vengeful killing spree. She sent another message to the Drevlians requesting they prepare food and mead so that she can hold a funeral feast in her late husband's honor. They agreed and held the feast, and as the night went on and the Drevlians continued drinking and merriment, they fell further into Olga's trap. Once they were thoroughly intoxicated, Olga ordered her men to slaughter them, killing 5,000. Now, it's said the number is no doubt exaggerated, but there isn't any documentation on how many it actually was, so who knows? Determined to not rest until all Drevlians had paid the price, Olga gathered her soldiers to finish what remained of them. Begging for Olga to cease her blood-filled vengeance, the Drevlians yielded to Olga, In response, Olga agreed that she would be satisfied if each house were to gift her 3 pigeons and 3 sparrows. The Drevlians did as she asked in hopes this would be the end. The birds were collected, and Olga's soldiers were instructed to tie a piece of sulfur and cloth to the leg of each bird. When night came, the birds were released. The pigeon and sparrows flew back to their nests, which were primarily in the roofs, porches, and haystacks throughout the city. Before long, the entire city was up in flames, sending the remaining Drevlians running. Olga's soldiers caught them, killing some and enslaving the rest. Olga continued to rule until 960, allowing her son to take over. And she never remarried. But wait, earlier I said Saint Olga of Kiev. How was this woman a saint? Well, it turns out after all the murdering, Olga was the first ruler of the Kievan Rus to adopt Christianity. And although she wasn't able to convert her son, she made great efforts to convert the rest of her people, and had success with her grandson, who eventually made Christianity the official religion of the Kievan Rus. Thus, in 1547, the Orthodox Church proclaimed Princess Olga a saint. While watching other YouTube videos on Olga, I kept coming across titles declaring her a badass and the female John Wick. And although my reaction to her initial revenge was, oh shit, the more she kept killing, the more I started to think she's more like Daenerys in the last season of Game of Thrones than John Wick. Sure, I rooted for her at first, but there comes a point where it's all but overkill. The death of her husband cost the lives of thousands, and certainly most of those people had nothing to do with the murder of Prince Igor. Although I will admit, it is unlikely that Prince Mal would have taken no for an answer in his marriage proposal, and once Olga killed the first of the Drevlians, she probably would have had to keep going to prevent her own demise. What are your thoughts on Saint Olga of Kiev? Was she a justified badass who earned revenge? Or was she a monstrous murderer who created a haunting history for Kiev? Tell me what you think in the comments, and if there's a morbid topic you'd like me to discuss, tell me about that too. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.